Now let's move on to the next part of the lesson, which is factoring special cases in trinomials. Now before I start presenting this lesson, I want you to know that this is a mere shortcut. It works only if you can recognize certain patterns in a trinomial. So there are certain rules that you need to follow, and it only works if it's a perfect square trinomial. So this by no means works for all trinomials. What we learned earlier, which is the grouping method or the box method, or even the bottoms-up method in pre-AP, those methods work for all trinomials. So let's say you want to use the box method to factor that, you will arrive at the same conclusion that we will get to in this lesson. So if you don't want to use the perfect square trinomial, that would be fine. However, if you recognize the pattern, then factoring will be much faster. So let's see how we can find this pattern. Now there are certain rules that you need to follow, or certain things you need to check before you can know if you can apply this special case, or if this is a special case. Now the first thing you need to ask yourself, do I have 3 terms? Is this a trinomial? So let's check. We have 1, 2, 3 terms, so yes, it is a trinomial. Now the second thing I need to check is I need to look at the first and third term and ask myself, are they perfect squares? Now to know that, I need to look at the first term first. Now 4, am I able to square root that? What's the square root of 4? So if you have access to your calculator, find that square root of 4 is a 2. Now yes, it has a variable, and the power of the variable is 2, so yes, it's a perfect square. So then if I square root for x to the power 2, I will get 2x. Now 9 is also square rootable. If I find the square root of 9, I will get a 3. So yes, the first and the third term are perfect squares. So let's put a check next to that. Now the third thing I need to check for is, what if I multiply 2x times 3? What will I get? 2x times 3. That's a 6x. So if I multiply 2x by 3 and 2, I need to double it. So 2 times 2x times 3, that will give me 12x, which is the middle term. So all 3 rules are satisfied. Let's review what they are. Now again, when you understand this lesson, it's not going to take you this long to do it. You can directly look at the numbers and recognize that. And once you recognize the pattern, then factoring will be very fast. Now we have 3 terms. Check. The first term is square rootable. I can do square root of 4 and I can get it to 2. Now the third term is also square rootable. If I square root 9, I will get a 3. So check. Now let's look at the third one. I need to see if the middle term satisfies a certain pattern. Now if I multiply 2 times 3, that's a 6, and double it. So 6 times 2 is 12. So the third rule, check. That means this is a perfect square trinomial. I use the sign of the middle term, put it between the 2x and the 3, put parentheses around them, and put a square on top. So that means that my factored form is going to be 2x plus 3 to the power 2. Now how can you check your work? Always put the main question in y1, or the main equation in y1, put the factored form in y2, and graph it. If you get the same parabola, then this is your answer. You are correct. Now let's move on to number 1. Let me try number 1 with you. So let's see. Are these 3 terms? 1, 2, 3. Check. Can I square root 49? If I square root 49, I will get 7. Now you see how the 49 has a variable x to the power 2, so I give the 7 only an x. Now look at the third term. It's 25. Can I square root it? Yes, I will get a 5. So second rule, check. I was able to square root 49. I was able to square root 25. Now I need to check if the middle term satisfies the pattern. Now multiply 7 times 5, so that's 35, then double it. 35 times 2 is a 70. Check. So then I'm done. I use the sign of the middle term, put it between the two terms 7x and 5, put parentheses around them, and then put 2 on top. Now I would like you to pause the video and try number 3 on your own. Now I hope you tried on your own, and I want you to see how this is a shortcut. Very fast. I didn't have to do the box method or the bottom set or grouping because it satisfies a certain pattern and I was able to factor quickly. Now let's see. Do we have 3 terms? Check. Can we square root the first term? What's the square root of 9? 3. And you see how the first term has a variable x to the power 2, so I give the number 3 just an x. Now let's look at the third term. Can you square root that? What's the square root of 4? It's a 2. So yes, I was able to check the second rule. Now let's see if the middle term follows a certain pattern. Now multiply those two numbers by themselves. So 3 times 2 is a 6. Now double that. 6 times 2 is a 12. So check. Satisfies the third rule. What's the sign of the middle term? Positive. So I put plus between the 3x and the 2, and then square on the outside. That means my factored form is 3x plus 2 to the power 2. Now if you want to check that, you can write it like algebraically. You can write out 3x plus 2 twice and FOIL it, and you will get exactly that. Or you can put this in y1, your factored form in y2, and you will see that they will be equal to each other. So this only works if you have a perfect square trinomial, if it satisfies 3 different rules. Now let's move on to number 2 and try this together. Now, first of all, do we have 3 terms? Yes. Can I square root 36? Yes. What will I get? 6. Now, you see how 36 has a variable x to the power 2, so I give the 6 a variable which is x. Now let's look at the third term. Now, I don't have a number, but that means that the number is 1. So check. Can you square root 1? Square root of 1 is a 1. Check it. Now, you see how, if they didn't give you a number, you put the number. It's there. It's 1, but you don't see it. So you can put 1. Square root of 1 is a 1. Now, you see how 1 has a variable y squared, so I give the 1 over here just 1y. Because remember, we're going to put the square on the outside if this turns out to be a perfect square. We don't know yet. We have to check if the third rule works. Now, multiply these two together. 6 times 1 is a 2. 6 times 1 is 6. Now multiply by 2 and you get 12. So the third rule is satisfied. Now look at the sign of the middle term. That's a minus. So I put minus between them and I put square on the outside. So then my factored form is 6x minus 1y, which is just a y to the power 2. And that would be my factored form. Now, do I have to use this method? No. You will arrive to the same conclusion if you use any of the other methods we learned. But if you recognize the pattern, then factoring will be quicker. Now, for the pre-AP students, remember, I would like you to memorize those rules, okay? Because when I give you a minus b to the power 2, I need you to be able to distribute and factor quickly, and I don't want you to be writing a minus b twice and foiling them. So you need to know these two rules.